to 19.8 billion rupees 1 year later, in 2012-2013. Non-interest income during the same period increased from 10.7 billion to 11.7 billion. Profit after tax stood at 13.8 billion in the period 2012-2013. Greater involvement of the banking sector in the industrial development process is therefore highly possible in view of increasing profitability registered and the excess liquidity within the fold of commercial banks in Mauritius. Improved banking practices through more reasonable banking charges and commissions, through the narrowing of the gap between lending and borrowing rates, through the lowering of interest rates on overdrafts and other loans, will ultimately be beneficial to the banks themselves, because I sincerely believe that this will cause business to increase. And we should also take cognizance of the fact that SMEs have a crucial role to play in the economy, not only in production and the creation of wealth, but also in employment. However, the weak bargaining position of SMEs should not be a factor when their business proposals are being examined. Instead, they are the ones that need the most support. In fact, you will recall, ladies and gentlemen, that over the years, government has reduced interventions considerably in the banking sector compared to a recent past. And in that recent past, sectoral credit allocation, as well as concessionary rates of interest, were enforced. The liberal policy adopted over the years by government towards banks should not be construed as a leeway for practices that are not conducive to the economic development process. In other words, a liberal policy is not a license to kill. And it will not be in the interest of the monolithic banking sector to be perceived as a state within a state. The Bank of Mauritius has already sounded the alarm bell on such banking practices. I strongly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that the banking sector has to take a hard look at its role and should link its lending practices with long-term objectives, which are closely associated with the economic growth of the country. And it is high time, I think, that the banking sector takes an enhanced participatory role in the economic development process of the country. And in this context, adopts necessary measures to reduce the cost of lending, minimize charges and other commissions, and review the penalty rates of that. I am confident, ladies and gentlemen, that the business community will take up the challenge with the collaborative support of government, since collective efforts by the public and the private sector together have always contributed positively to achieve national economic goals. And I therefore wish that the public sector and the private sector partnership remains a determinant factor to achieve higher growth, to achieve economic development through continued dialogue and concerted efforts, and through the development of what we very nicely call convergence of our objectives. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank personally the outgoing President, Mr. Ganesh Ramalingam, for having been so cooperative as usual over the past year. I also wish to thank the Secretary General, Mr. Raju Jadu, and through Mr. Jadu, whole staff of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and wish that the fruitful interaction between my ministry and the incoming President and the new Council and members of the Chamber continues as it has always done. With these words, Mr. Outgoing President, incoming President, Secretary General, members of the Chamber, I wish you well. Thank you very much.
I reserve my special thanks to our ministers who have always honored us with their presence at our AGMs. This is a strong testimony to the synergy that exists in the private sector relationship, which is so important in our development model. The state of the economy addressed today a firmly established tradition of the Mauritius Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as it has been for so many years. It is a perfect platform for the private sector to voice its assessment and concerns over the year gone by, to outline the impediments to the free functioning of the market forces, while also acknowledging the opportunities that appear. The speech has survived the countless assaults of mercurial economic conditions, and this longevity radiates the forcefulness of the Mauritian private sector in the face of adversity and its formidable capacity to constantly evolve and reinvent itself, to remain at the forefront to further the economic development of the country. The recent crisis that conjured a recurring miasma of analysis and forecasts that are constantly and conspicuously imposed on everybody by everybody. In this overabundance of information, a question arises: is there still a need and time for yet another discourse today evaluating the economy? The answer is yes. Maybe 1,000 times yes. We are choosing to shun humility and be proud of our ability. Over the years, 165 to be exact, we have been able to stick to our mandate, and with the close collaboration of our members and the government, strive towards improving the business environment and contributed to the economic development of Mauritius. We have been at the service of the business community, translating and echoing their fears and their hopes. We have developed economic tools to substantiate our arguments. We have never strayed away from our responsibilities, and we will not deviate from this path. Ladies and gentlemen, on a global level, we have just put the lead on a year reminiscent of the Halcyon period, prior to which it was next to impossible to predict what was going to happen in the next few hours, never mind the next few days. It was not a year where large corporations were closing on a daily basis, where the queue at job centers kept on stretching, where a minus sign preceded all growth figures. True, growth in world output has been lower than that of 2012, but it is not far from it, and it's still quality growth. Another relapse has been avoided, and it can safely be said that some reasonable distance has been put from not such a distance past. This global conjuncture is closely reflected by the Mauritian economy. The dwindling potential growth reflects, to a large extent, the dismal trend of investment over the last few years. The nefarious effects of falling capital formation are felt, both in short and long term. A contraction of 4.3% of gross domestic fixed capital formation in 2013 shows that the situation is only worsening. In fact, in the last 4 years, investment has fallen thrice. The share of private sector investment relative to GDP has fallen to 16%, from 18.8% in 2010, and as a result of the dearth of projects and a lack of incentives to invest in new technology. The low prevailing level of confidence stifled the entrepreneurial spirit of investors, causing them to delay the implementation of their projects. In time of crisis, enhanced public investment should be able to offset the fall in private investment. However, this doesn't seem to be the case in Mauritius. Public sector investment relative to GDP has fallen to 5% in 2013 from 6.1% in 2010, with a 4.9% contraction in 2013. The rate of growth in consumption has also been underwhelming. Despite the PRB recommendation, this was expected as a compensation in salary applied to less than 1/5 of the working population, with a higher level of compensation going to those having a lower marginal propensity to consume, is bound to be of limited impact on the general economy. In fact, consumption grew at a rate of 2.4% in 2013, lower than the 2.8% growth recorded during the previous year. Given this, and the fact that compensation to employees increased to 39.9% of GDP in 2013 from 38.5% previously, it was expected that the savings rate would increase. However, this was not the case, with gross national saving relative to GDP tumbling to 14% last year, as opposed to the rate of 15.1% in 2012, leading to some concerns about the capacity of the economy to support the future investment. Net exports of goods and services as percentage of GDP remain negative, although this deficit has been reduced. Indeed, from minus 12.1% of GDP in 2012, the deficit fell to minus 11.5% last year, following an increase of 0.5% of export and 2.9% increase in imports. It is worth noting that while exports of goods increased by 3%, export of services registered a fall of 1.4%. The shrinking of the deficit is hugely due to a slight depreciation of the rupee vis-à-vis the currencies of our major trading partners. Ladies and gentlemen, the signs are mixed at best. The recovery is evident, but some of the figures mentioned still suggest that there are risks that exist. As we have seen, the headwinds of a downturn can affect us in the ways that we can surely anticipate, but not necessarily dissipate, especially when we have such a disproportionate reliance on Europe. The fact today is that we have to do all that we can to make the most of the opportunities that come our way. And we believe that there is no lack of them. Failure to get in the stride of the most recent developments will result in our economy lagging behind all the others, compelling us in a state of lethargic growth in the future. We have a responsibility towards this country, that of creating wealth for its inhabitants, to improve their living standards and bring our economy to the high-income country status. Last year was a seminal year in terms of expanding our wealth of resources, extending our frontier to integrate our exclusive economic zone of 2.3 million kilometers in our development agenda. As Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The ocean economy indeed provides us with a plethora of new prospects such as seabed exploration of hydrocarbon and minerals, fishing, seafood processing and aquaculture, deep ocean water applications, marine services, seaport-related activities, marine renewable energies, and ocean knowledge. The private sector has a key role in developing all of this. The potential for progress is there, and the onus is on us to harness it. Ladies and gentlemen, while the ocean economy broadens our resource base and expands our supply capacity, it is one of the many strategies being pursued to change our economic paradigm. We need new markets. Fortunately, we do not have to look very far to find the most vibrant economies of our recent times. The Vosgian hotbed of rising middle income class of African continent is a perfect outlet for our entrepreneurs to ply their trade in more ways than one. We are proud members of proud African family, and it is high time that we take full advantage of our existing entrepreneurship, relationship. Africa has much to offer in terms of export markets, in terms of industrial and agricultural space to relocate production lines, and also in terms of resources to enable true and real beneficiation. In the overall value chain, Africa offers the best deal in terms of economies of scale that fail to accrue to us due to our limited size. As I have mentioned previously, the opportunities for business are well and truly present, and we will do all our capacity to channel our efforts, experience, and know-how towards such a plan. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a question that lingers in my mind nonetheless. Do we actually have a plan? It is not the first time that we are talking about diversifying our markets. It is not the first time that we are talking about going towards Africa. And this is not the first time that we are talking about the wealth of resources that abound from our seas. Africa was not discovered yesterday, nor has the ocean appeared magically. The opportunities that we are talking about have been knocking on our doors since ages. Did we need the worst crisis for nearly a century to wake us up from our slumber? In fact, have we really woken up? The fact is that realizing the objective set towards reaching the African market is nothing short of a dearest of ordeals, more so for small and medium entrepreneurs. Large companies may have the firepower necessary to prospect Africa destination and design their projects to match the requirements of the host country. Smaller enterprises are, however, oblivious to the cultural, geographical, and economic realities of many of these African nations. Without proper leverage, they bear the risk of running straight into a wall and end up losing big. The solution is nevertheless not to remain idle and be satisfied with the low-scale production. As the saying goes, a ship is safe at quay, but this is not what it is made for. The learning potential of going to Africa should never be disparaged for everyone concerned. This is where the government should step in to enable progress. The government has announced some measures in the last few years aim at facilitating access to Africa, but they are not working. The vulnerability to risk in the region should be removed, and this is where a dedicated desk with all the relevant market information, with a specialist offering advice to those willing to develop their business on the continent, gets into the equation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is still not enough. Like most present here, I am an entrepreneur. I stand in the face of disappointments and obstacles. I sweat at the probability of receiving dismal end of period figures. I deal with vicissitudes of business life. And I toil as much as each entrepreneur does, on a basis that repeats far too regular in my opinion. Despite all, I have an overwhelming sense of pride and fulfillment when I see the quality of goods we make and the standards of services we provide. But convoluted decisions and discourses are beginning to wipe out that passion and desire to become better at what I do. I operate in the ICT sector, and one particular example where I can tell that we miss an opportunity in placing our money where our mouth is remains the Mauritius National Identity Card project. What operators in this sector experience there, I believe, reflects what happens elsewhere as well. We have been claiming that we have the necessary know-how to develop the African continent, that we produce goods of the highest quality, and that we are the most efficient at providing all kinds of services. The kind of ludicrous trumpet blowing rings false when we have us pressing our expertise and skills in favor of much dearer foreign services. Unless there is a prevailing belief that the ICT King 4 is an anachronism that cannot cope with the latest developments, there was no reason that the Identity Card project to land in foreign hands. We have the skills, we have the tools, and the ability to undertake even much more than this. Such scenarios abound in other sectors as well as I would reckon. The paucity in transparency in several such processes of allocating contracts plagues the development of many a sector of the economy, and the irreverence shown to local potential undermines all effort to strengthen our productivity capacity and promote Mauritius as the nation of makers. To become the focal point in the region, be it in ICT or any other sector, this attitude has to change, and the quicker the better. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is we have been lacking a plan, a proper development plan that will assess where we are and set the agenda that will take us to 2030. We won't get anywhere if we don't even know where we are going. We are no longer the kind of nearly independent economy that we were 4 decades ago. We now have the experience to embark on new development projects that we would never have dreamt possible. The Mauritius Vision 2020 was a formidable document that identified avenues where attention, resources and talent should have been directed. We have, however, deterred on too many futile issues that go beyond the economic and social consideration that good governance demanded. We do not require a government that is there only to fix what is wrong, but also to build what is right. We only need the government by our side, marching on towards a common goal, as we always have been doing. We concede that the government cannot do everything for us, but at the very least, we require that we are not impeded in our endeavors. We require that we are heard, and we require that our views are considered. We are concerned with the innumerable promises condemning us to endless gridlock on important policy matters, and we want to eliminate the constant cycle of procrastinating the construction of important infrastructure. The luxury of time is no longer on our side. We have been operating under duress for far too long. The wit and wisdom of Sir Winston Churchill emphasized on the importance of our ilk. To quote the man himself, some people regard private enterprise as a predatory tiger to be shot. Others look at it as a cow they can milk. Not enough people see it as a healthy horse, pulling a sturdy wagon. And this horse needs to be strong to remove people out of unemployment. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to take time to talk about the destructive cause that is unemployment, because we believe that there is nothing worse than seeing the mental and physical capacity of our able countrymen being wasted while there is so much that still needs to be done. It is inconceivable that the unemployment rate of Mauritius is higher than that of the UK or the US, when those economies have experienced contractions in output recently. Our young graduates get out of university after several years of toil, expecting a decent job that will help them achieve their dreams and fulfill their commitments. They aspire to a better life for them, for their parents, for their future families, but are unable to match their skills to the demands of the labor market. It is our duty to get them back in the system, to make Mauritius once again a land of opportunity. The success of the youth employment program should not be a basis to discontinue design of additional schemes to reduce unemployment. Some consideration should be given to on-the-job training, providing students experience as well as instructions. We welcome the dual training program announced in the budget and which came as a proposal of the MCCI in our budget memorandum. Labor market rigidities need to be addressed, encouraging companies to reward the most deserving individuals and improving the potential of productivity of the workforce. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of last year, through our very own economic barometer, pointed towards a thinning of the dark clouds that have been hovering over us. A certain recovery was expected. However, the latest issues show that this mood has not been sustained, and the hopes of entrepreneurs have not materialized. To their credit, however, as shown to our survey, they will expect that the future will be brighter and will spare no efforts to make it happen. We need stable policies for that, and it would be a major victory for an erstwhile stagnant economy. We know how difficult it has been. We know all about the obstacles that have come our way, and we have valiantly survived. because we believe in our capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll end by making a rallying cry to all stakeholders. Let us work together and make Mauritius once again the buccaneering force that made us the country we are today. We need this country as much as the country needs us. Thank you very much.
Interest of the business community and to help them to play the leading role in the economic development of Mauritius. I mean, that is mostly all our goals altogether. And I have read with interest in your last MCCI Business Confidence Report, where you note that a moderate improvement in the business confidence indicator in Mauritius in the fourth quarter of this year after 2 consecutive quarters of declines. And there are some other extracts from your business confidence report that I would wish to comment today, where it states that a large majority of entrepreneurs have indicated that they have continued their efforts to find new markets to continue to fuel their own expansion, which is very commendable. And also the government has supported businesses via schemes such as refund for participation in international fairs to assist entrepreneurs in establishing new market links. And also I have noted the comments on the report, the lack or absence of support from government to business. And obviously my comment is that government has adopted several policies and implemented various schemes targeted to enhance business support services, especially to SMEs. And I have to cite a few of them. One of the major achievements is access to finance itself. It is historical, because never in any government whatsoever has access to finance been such a priority. And we have done it for the last 3 years, mainly the SME Credit Guarantee Scheme. And as at 19th of March 2014, commercial banks had approved credit facilities worth close to 3 billion rupees, roughly about 2.96. So roughly around 3 billion rupees credit facilities have been approved. So I believe that is a major achievement considering the economic situation we are in the world. Secondly, another revolutionary measure by this government is removal of collateral on loans to be given to MSMEs. Since my assumption of office, I noted there was something lacking in the system, in the procedure, in the contract of loan to be given to MSMEs, and this has been the fruitful discussion over several forums. And we came up with the collateral-free loan scheme in last budget, and these for entrepreneurs who had brilliant ideas, innovative ideas, with viable projects, great business plans. And we noted that these projects, these plans, like we said, lack of project, but I still believe these plans, these innovative ideas could not materialize. It could not come into action because simply the procedure that finance we had acceded to. So this has been addressed, and I believe that's the major fear. Because la force motrice itself for this economy to sustain is we have to rely on our MSME sector. I've got our SME sector, but I believe the bigger achievement and success that we are waiting is in the MSME sector. And it is our duty to help the MSMEs, the micros, like I said. So this collateral-free loan to micros has been passed in the last budget, and we are ready to sign the MOU very soon, after my last conversation with the Minister of Finance. And secondly, access to technology. The Mauritius Business Growth Scheme Unit, for the last 4 years, it has in existence, has performed a considerable amount of work. And this unit, which falls under my ministry, is playing the role of a catalyst to kickstart growth initiatives in the private sector companies in all shapes and sizes. It has a core unit of experienced business advisors who mentor and coach selected client firms, helping them identify the constraints and also to prevent help them to identify those constraints and to prevent them from having the same sales over so many years, to boost up their turnover, to boost up their business expansion, to create additional investment and job creation. In 3 years of operation, 3-4 years now, the MBGS has indeed already provided innovative technical assistance schemes to some 250 enterprises, of which 84% are SMEs. And concerning access to the market, in order to facilitate access to the market, my ministry has organized 48 joint SME and cooperative fairs around the island. And the outcome in terms of increase in sales is in the range of 10 to 20%, and consequently increase in orders for those companies. Very recently, launched by the Minister of Finance and myself, the SME website, which is quite a new achievement. And secondly, on the level of my ministry, encouraging marketing at household doorsteps, encouraging sales at household doorsteps, coming into new methods of marketing. And further, when I mentioned the SME website, these websites are benefited at a free of charge basis. Further on, considering access to industrial space, I'm sure you're all aware of that industrial space itself was a major hindrance for SMEs, and this has been addressed by this government. We have already had 2 industrial space open, one in Rochefort, and the last one was in Latukenik, and we have 55 units altogether, Rochefort and Latukenik, and this has been completed, it is in operation. And we have, I believe in May, the launching of the next industrial space, which will be at La Valette, and this is due for completion very soon. So the aspect of industrial space is being addressed in a very concrete manner as well. So on this side, the government is addressing those issues: finance, technology, market, industrial space, and also recently access to information. My ministry has launched a brochure in December 2013 to inform SMEs of the diverse measures put together for the disposal of those schemes to help companies to grow. And the vast majority of companies surveyed, about 70%, will primarily focus on their physical investment, and that is the comment made by the report. And also another comment was they are particularly interested in the purchases of equipment. And obviously, concerning that comment, this government has supported SMEs and larger companies through the acquisition of new technology and machinery, through the leasing equipment modernization scheme, the LEMS. This has worked out very well as well. So we have seen schemes which have worked out. So it is not all that gloomy. And all these measures have provided the means for our enterprises, and more precisely SMEs, to be more resilient, to ride the rough waves of the economic climate, and characterized by closures, downsizing, or layoffs. And let me provide some figures so that the audience can appreciate the resilience and perseverance of our SMEs. Statistics relating to SMEs in Mauritius, the SME sector is increasingly being recognized as one of the powerful economic forces, comprising of the lion's share of employment, 50% of the total working population. In 2002, the contribution of the SMEs to the GDP was 31.1% only. And in 2007, due to our bold and daring measures, it went up to 38.8%. And recently, in 2012, it stood at 39.2%, and the estimate for 2015 is 40% of the GDP. And concerning the public sector investment, we all know, we have all seen the roads, road network, public infrastructure being made all around the island, and more public sector investment would be in the road network, linking the east of the island to the west of the island. That is, would benefit tremendously, especially for the tourism industry. The new airport is not a secret for anyone, and further investment being done in the port sector, where there would be the porting, which would be installed very soon. So investment, public sector investment is being made in the country gradually but successfully. And further, like stated by the President, we have also done further cooperation, more collaboration, and finding new markets. I have to point out cooperation with India. We all know that India is a vibrant SME sector. It has proven itself very resilient and has continually reinvented itself to align with global realities. 2 MOUs were signed with the Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India and the National Small Industries Corporation in December 2013. And these MOUs will help Mauritius benefit from capacity building as well as technical know-how for setting up incubators, etc. It will also assist SMEs to diversify in other fields, new markets, introduction, and in line with the vision to make Mauritius a nation of entrepreneurs. And one thing that I have to commend our friends and colleagues, that is the branding of the Mauritian products. Brand image have become shortcuts to purchasing decisions, and we know it. Nation branding is important for a developing country, as it can give a competitive advantage and is in turn engenders several opportunities for that country. Enterprises should diffuse an image of what is local and like proof the brands, services pertaining to their products and services. The adoption of a local name and logo no doubt promotes the locally manufactured products, and also it encapsulates nationalistic feelings. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Association of Mauritian Manufacturers, which has developed such a local brand, the Made in Maurice logo, which is a stamp of approval of the product, which is indeed made in Mauritius. The logo is overlaid on a map of Mauritius and colors of the national flag. All positive nationalistic indicators are there. It's good to be a Mauritian, and it's good to support Mauritian industries by buying their products and services. And I have already said that the collaboration with my ministry in relation to branding is open, and also that we wish to further build up into such an endeavor. One of the things that I wish to propose today, which I think I have informally discussed with the President, is that you know, in countries like Malaysia and Singapore, the drivers of scheme dissemination among entrepreneurs all over the country are the association of entrepreneurs, the chamber in those countries. So I believe a public-private partnership in such an endeavor would be very welcome. That is, to have through the chamber and other associations, obviously, if we can help to disseminate all the schemes put up by the government, so that all our entrepreneurs can benefit 100% from those schemes, and we don't have any shortcomings in that field. And secondly, concerning the collaboration with public and private, I would suggest that if we can have yearly business angel meetings. Business angel meetings would really help small enterprises or startups which have come with a new idea, and they need a helping hand. They need that learning curve to be able to perform, to be able to succeed. So yearly business angel meetings, I believe, one of the proposals which I would leave it to you to discuss. And thirdly, such as to like earlier with the flowers thrown to me by the President, I'm just joking, to prevent disappointments, strategies which are not working, lacking of plan, or to prevent some acting under duress. I believe regular, or let's start by ministerial meeting between both of us to address those queries, those worries, so that we are on the same path and we are working in practice. It has to be practical. That was the same goal, right? Because les paroles s'envolent, le futur reste. So let's work in practice towards the same goal, having regular meetings that start at the studio. And also, one thing that you should, I believe, address in the business confidence report, that is the issue of support to SMEs and MSMEs from the side of the private sector. That is, whether you are identifying the issue of inclusive business, for instance, because we have also to measure the role and duty of large enterprises towards small enterprises. And it is in that way, in that juncture, that probably will encourage more SMEs, more MSMEs to grow. So to address the issue of inclusive business also is, I believe, one of the proposals that I probably would like you to take note of. And I'd like to end on this note that for doing business 2014, that Mauritius is still lagging behind at the 20th place of the latest World Bank Ease of Doing Business report. And we wish to do a bit much more to perform better. But I believe 20th place, the world whether the ease of doing business in the world ranking is quite appreciable. And no need to state that we are in the top of indexes like Ibrahim in Africa. And I have indeed taken stock of most of the queries stated by the President, and I believe we can start by such proposal. We can obviously discuss them. And I sincerely believe that if we put our minds together, right, I don't think there is any wall that can lie before us, right? So we proceed with breaking that wall, right? So all the best while you can proceed with the General Assembly, and congratulations in advance to the newly elected chairman. Thank you.